with Dr. Karen Green.
Wow, c'est chouette, nous.
Tu voz es nuestra elección.
Ta voix, c'est notre choix.
The voice of Florida.
La voz de la Florida.
Your voice is our choice with Dr. Karen Green. The voice of Florida. Your voice.
Good morning, blessings, and welcome to another week of The Voice of Florida, where your voice is our choice. Today, as we know, it's the eve of the presidential election, which we all see as one of the most momentous and special elections in our lifetime. Today, we're going to have a really special show. We're going to be moving into speaking to some folks who are really impactful, people who have been on the front line, not only those who are reporting, but those who are participating. And our guests will be joining us as we continue. We just want to thank the Lord for another day. And we are all excited from across the globe for this show. Welcome our first guest, Lester Hines. Good morning, Lester.
Good morning, Dr. Green.
Blessed love to you. Lester happens to be one of the most renowned writers, journalists representing the Caribbean and Jamaica, particularly here in the United States and across the diaspora. But this morning, I'm just really preciously blessed to have my friend with full declaration, Lester Hines in New York, to tell us about, Lester's an award-winning journalist. And Lester, we're all excited about tomorrow. What is the feeling within the Caribbean diaspora and your opinion on this race?
Well, I've been writing about it. I've just had a story come out in the Gleaner this morning, where all the Jamaicans that I've spoken to are very bullish and very optimistic that the vice president is going to win the presidency. Mm-hmm. And this is not based on the fact that she has Jamaican roots, but rather because of what they're seeing on the ground and mm-hmm. their participation mm-hmm. in the effort to turn out the votes for her. Over in Pennsylvania, I spoke mm-hmm. with several people there, mm-hmm. and you will. What I found is that there are buses leaving New York, Rhode Island, Rochester, going into Pennsylvania, bolstering the efforts on the ground, knocking on doors, doing mailings, phone banking, the general organization thing, taking people to the polls, mm-hmm. and so there's a sense of excitement, yes. that is generated that one has not seen since 2008 with the Obama campaign.
I share your sentiment. We're hearing it from across the United States, in the trenches, as they would say. I actually had folks telling me that they were being bused from New York, New Jersey, heading to Pennsylvania to go help knock on doors yesterday, momentously knocking on thousands of doors. Lester, I know there is a sentiment beyond patriotism that Jamaicans on a whole are just excited. But as you said before, not just us, but Caribbean people. What are the two primary issues you're aware of that has us so activated and motivated?
Well, one of the major issues is that they don't want 4 more years of Donald Trump. And so therefore they they really see him as a danger to the American way of life and the American governmental system. And so they want to do everything to make sure that he does not go back into the White House. Apart from that, they are pretty excited about the economic program that the vice president has been laying out for communities and people in the middle class.
Yes.
And they're saying that should she win and be able to enact all of this, it will only make their lives better and ensure that that they can meet the requirements of being a homeowner and develop generational wealth. The other factor is the promise of mass deportation. Because there are some people who feel that, okay, this won't happen to me because I'm a citizen or I'm a legal resident. Now, if there's mass deportation, people can be scooped up off the street, at work. You don't walk with documentations which show that you're a citizen, and you don't walk with documentations that show that you're a green card holder.
Well, let me interject here for a moment, Lester, because there was a time in history when people literally had to walk with those credentials. Back in the Gestapo time, people had to show who they were. If you can recall, history tells us that not too long ago, within the last century, people had to show who they were walking the streets in Europe. So,
Yes, but the thing is that a lot of people feel in this age and time that if you have proper identification, then you don't really need to walk with something showing that you are legally required to be in the U.S.
You're right.
And so you can get scooped up by ICE or by local police, and you're taken to a detention center. You have no way of getting to the documentation to prove that you're a citizen or you are a legal resident, and so you can get languished in such detention center.
Yes,
you'll have to employ an attorney to be able to get all of this, and I don't know if people will have the money, and your relatives don't know where you are. So people can get caught up in all of this without knowing why they're caught up in it, and could be deported.
Lester, here is where one of the things the economists tell us that mass deportation would affect this economy in the worst way because of the value of immigrants for manufacturing, for companies, for small businesses. And to your point, the deportation piece, people who are immigrants of Black and brown color, and or there's not a way to identify where we came from, which means we'll be deporting Black Americans, Hispanic people who are all here as Americans could very well be caught up in that deportation. I think I was hearing a couple of the economists this week, and correct me if I'm wrong, stating that the United States doesn't have the budget for deportation, nor do we own a national airline, nor do we have a national cruise line. So how would we budget this to have deportation? What is the conversation really like in the spaces you're talking to people? What is your real concern?
Well, the situation is they don't need to own an airline. They don't need to own a cruise line. They have military planes that are available to them, and so therefore they could use the military planes to deport people. But it would have a disastrous effect on the U.S. economy, because you're talking, the estimate is something in the region of about $200 billion for this mass deportation. But stop and think that when Florida introduced this law, which says that if you go to the hospital, you have to say the hospital had to report on your status.
Yes.
And the effect that that had on Florida, because we saw in Florida where the construction industry was badly
Was
affected.
impacted.
The
And agricultural.
agricultural sector was
Correct.
badly affected.
Yes.
The hospitality sector was
Oh, yes.
badly affected.
Nursing.
There were some Hispanic truck drivers long distance who said they were not going to deliver the goods to Florida. So you had a situation where there were shortages on the shelves in Florida. Now, 3 times that across the U.S. And then you're talking about the devastation of services in hospital, because there are lots of people who, they may not be doctors and nurses, but they take care of cleaning the hospitals. They take care of other things in the hospital. They wouldn't be there to do that.
You're
And
so
so
right.
the hospitals would be very, very badly affected.
So our healthcare, our food
Health.
chain, let me interject. Our health services, our food chain, our tourism, our education, and all of the private sector would have been impacted. We're on this morning. Before this, let me just stop for a moment to recognize on our call this morning, we have Nancy Mater Bowen, who happens to be the Caribbean Coalition Director for the Harris Walz campaign here in the state of Florida. Nancy, welcome and thank you for joining us at such short notice. I know we're in the one-day eve of what we see as the horizon of forwardness. Welcome, Nancy. Nancy, how are things looking in the state of Florida? And thank you for having served in your capacity. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me this morning, Karen. What we're seeing on the ground as of this weekend, it's the last weekend. It was the last weekend of GOTV, early voting. We saw a lot of excitement, but we also saw a lot of individuals who really was craving for more interaction from the campaign. And not saying that is wrong of them. It's just that making sure that we were there, present and alert, and giving them the resources that they need. I was just so excited to galvanize the people who wanted to meet with the campaign and encourage them to call their family members, ensure that their friends had a voting plan. And so the folks that I met at the polls, they were excited to cast some of them, the first time citizens casting their vote for Kamala Harris. Mm-hmm. And then some returning folks who were super excited of voting for someone with Caribbean descent who is a product of 2 immigrant parents. So there was a lot of mixed feelings, but I am excited to see what the results will be on Tuesday. I know that everywhere across the country that folks are rooting for Kamala and they think that she is going to make it across the finish line. I know for a fact that our residents here in Florida want to make sure that under Vice President Kamala Harris administration, that they are seen, that they're heard, and that the policies that were placed, the gentleman who spoke earlier, the policies that have been put in place will be reversed and folks can truly live in a place where they can thrive and prosper and provide for their families.
Nancy, that is so well said and well stated. Lester, before you comment, let us also first identify that Nancy is also an elected official serving in one of the most populous, most democratic counties in the state of Florida, in Broward County. Again, Nancy, thanks for your service. Lester,
I was just about to say that I'm hoping that the excitement on the ground in Florida would result in Senator Rick Scott being defeated. But then
that too.
But then it's up to them.
People were very concerned and looking forward to making sure that their Medicaid and Social Security stayed intact. So that was also a driving force at the polls as well.
Oh, for sure. Especially knowing that he was a culprit of sabotaging our healthcare sector back in almost 2 decades ago. Nancy also represents a constituency, being of Haitian descent herself, that in recent weeks succumbed to some real, like others, the attack of the Haitian community. But Nancy, tell us right now, because we've had instances in Florida where people didn't believe, for the same reasons Jamaicans didn't vote with Hillary Clinton and with the Democratic Party, and Lester, you can attest to this, the conservative values. Tell us this morning, Nancy, what is the difference this cycle? Are we voting Democratic from the Haitian community?
We have to. There's no doubt about it. As you've seen the horrific xenophobic comments, not only targeting Haitian individuals, but we have Puerto Rican now have that became a line of fire. We have all these immigrant communities who are being targeted for only because they're immigrants. To my Haitian individuals out there, you know what the task is, you know what your assignment is. We understand that disrespect is not tolerated amongst the community, and the best way to seek revenge is to cast your vote at the ballot box.
Thank you for that pitch, Nancy. Lester, you and I know also, and I want you to express the sentiment, because I know, and help me to advance this. A lot of people we know within the Caribbean, English-speaking Caribbean, Jamaicans particularly, are registered Republicans. Tell me right now from your opinion, Lester, tell me from not only who you're speaking to, but what fraction of those people are voting for Kamala?
Well, it's funny. If you read the story that I have in Gleaner this morning, there's a Jamaican who he has already voted for Trump in early voting, but he's out there getting people out and encouraging people to go out and vote for Kamala. And his thing is that if everything breaks right, she should win in a landslide. So although he voted for Trump, and his argument was that, well, he's in New York, and Kamala is going to win New York, so his vote is not, is just a drop somewhere. But the thing is that outside of his vote, it's interesting that he's encouraging people to go out and vote for her, and to take people to the polls in terms of all of this. One of the fantastic things is the cross-party line that is happening. There are some people who are still going to vote in terms of Trump, some Jamaicans that I know. And the reasons for voting for Trump is totally, skewed as far as I'm concerned, because they go back to the check that they got during the pandemic with Trump's name on it, and they say, "Oh, Trump gave us money when the pandemic was on," and you say to them, "But President Biden gave you more money than Trump did, right? And it wasn't Trump who gave you the money. It was Congress who voted the money, and he held up releasing it just to get his name on the check."
That's right.
And whereas when Congress approved the budget from President Biden, he released the money immediately, which gave you more money, right, and increased your unemployment benefits that you were getting. And he didn't hold on to it to put his name on it.
So Lester, let me share something with you real quickly on that point. First of all, let us appeal to the folks like our brother in New York who voted for Trump with a wasted vote. But at the same time, we need to appeal to him now to evangelize and others like him. That idea that you're voting for Trump, but you're going to ask others to vote, is not the responsible position to take. This is me saying to you, even the folks I know I'm talking to, many of us, we know who, but listen, one vote will make a difference wherever you are in this country. So don't think that you're voting, but you're going to ask your family to vote. That's not the way for us to do it now. For everyone in our hearing this morning and viewing audience, we're saying to you this morning of people of immigrant descent, because quite frankly, everybody in the United States, if you weren't a native Indian, you're an immigrant. The point is, we're saying to you this morning, let us not make it somebody else's task. We're asking you this morning, let us do this, because as one thing we know, I'm not sure if you all heard the news this morning, but most of DC right now is being bombarded with shields, protective guards, and otherwise. The National Guards are being called out in these United States. The only reason for that is because of the experience we had in January 6th. This morning, rather, the report is last evening, Donald Trump said he should not have left the White House. What does that tell you, folks? He said it. We could never see another election after he became president. And he's also saying to you, he regret moving out of the White House residence. What does that tell you? So anybody who took it on themselves to, for whatever reason, feeling that they had to vote Republican, when in fact, Lester, you know historically, because you've covered prime ministers and governors and in other states, this is the first time in the history of America that I know as a historian that we have seen this coalition of renowned Republicans, people who have literally been in national security, to tell us of the danger of another presidency of Donald Trump. Lester, can you just chime in on that, and then I'll have Nancy respond?
Well, as I said earlier, one of the amazing things about this election is the cross political party line that's taking place, and the Harris campaign has done an extremely smart thing. They have appealed to people who are Republicans. They have been out there campaigning with people who are Republicans. She has promised that she will have Republicans in her administration, and so therefore, what is happening now is that you're having a situation where people are becoming more and more comfortable about going out and voting for her. Republicans I'm talking about. And because for some reason they wanted a permission structure, which has been given to them by a lot of high profile Republicans who have come out and supported her campaign. And I would not be surprised, although I doubt it, I would not be surprised if today I see Mitt Romney comes out and support her.
So I'm praying that he does. And the Bushes as well.
I would not be surprised if he does.
And the Bushes as well.
Well, I don't think the Bush will do it. I don't think President Bush will do it. And I think there are reasons why he won't do it. But Romney's not going back to the Senate. He has already said so. And so they're mounting pressures on him by Republicans to come out and say, I'm endorsing her. Because it's not about the party, it's about democracy and saving the country.
Thank you. Nancy, your opinion on this? Because in the state of Florida, we also know that we have a lot of independents because of the ballot initiatives in our state. Tell us, Nancy, what's your take?
My take is this. There's only one clear choice, and this is Vice President Kamala Harris. She is the most qualified. She's the only person that can get the job done with the current political atmosphere that we're in right now. She has the most experience. When we talk about her experience in the judicial, legislative, and executive branch, she has experience in all three levels of government. She has brought a message of hope, togetherness, and a bipartisan conversation. She will be able to get the job done. If there's anything more American in either candidate, it is Vice President Kamala Harris. She is the one who's going to make sure that we will be pushing forward and every voice is heard and included in this process.
Thank you so much. That's well said. So today, Nancy, I know you're busy, going to probably have to head back to some more GOTV activities, but this audience this morning reaches the state, the country, and across the world. A lot of folks have already cast their absentee ballots from across the globe. A lot of us are still can pick up the phone today and inspire others to do the same thing from wherever you are in the world. So Nancy, here is your audience space to have your 1-minute pitch to speak to the world, to the country, to those who can vote in the state of Florida. Because remember, you don't have to be, you could be anybody who's able to vote in this election. Nancy, tell us, ask our voters to get out the votes today. This is your moment.
Please, I am pleading with you as someone of Asian descent, a child of immigrants who understands what's at stake. talked about Project 2025. We talked about having full autonomy of our bodies, women out there. We talked about protecting our Social Security and Medicaid. These are all the things that are near and dear to voters all over the Florida. It is so important that you not only go out and vote, but also galvanize your family and anyone near to you. If they have not voted, go ahead and send them a reminder text. Give them a phone call to check in on them. And also reach out to individuals on the campaign where we can give you a link where you are able to make calls to still undecided voters or individuals who still have not voted yet. We have a large threshold that we still need to get at the polling centers tomorrow because we need folks to understand early voting has completed as of yesterday. They have to go to their precinct, assigned and making sure they have the proper documentation and everything they need so they are not turned away.
We're going to be going to a break at this moment. And Nancy, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Lester, can you stick around some more with us?
I have another meeting.
Okay, well, thank you both, our first segment guests, for being here on The Voice of Florida, where your voice is our choice. Let us go win this election. Blessed love to you both. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right. Thank you.
St. Kitts and Nevis is shifting away from its heavy reliance of its Citizenship by Investment program, which has long been a key revenue source for the nation. Prime Minister Dr. Terrence Drew recently introduced the Sustainable Island State Agenda, a new development strategy aimed at diversifying the economy and reducing dependence on CBI funds. Dr. Drew highlighted that while CBI contributed to over $2.5 billion from 2019 to 2023, its revenue is inconsistent and under pressure from international entities such as the United Kingdom and the European Union, who are reevaluating the visa-free privileges tied to the country's passport. To promote lasting economic growth, the government will use existing CBI funds to support permanent job creation and local opportunities. The Sustainable Island State Agenda, which spans the next 15 years, is structured around the sustainable economic expansion and diversification pillars. Over the coming years, the agenda is expected to drive significant growth in sectors like construction, tourism, agriculture, and sustainability. Among the new projects are a new Bastiere High School funded by CBI, the JNF Climate Smart General Hospital supported by Taiwan, a desalination plant, and an expanded power plant funded by Saudi Arabia. Dr. Drew emphasized the importance of this shift and urged citizens to embrace the plan as a pathway towards a more resilient economy.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Good news today about jobs. That comes ahead of Friday's October jobs report. Private employers added 233,000 jobs in October, much more than expected, the most in a year, according to the payroll firm ADP. There was good news on the economy, too. It grew at a solid rate of 2.8% during the summer's third quarter, mostly thanks to continued consumer and business spending. And on Wall Street, that's leading to some modest gains today. Right now, the Dow is up almost 0.5%. The Nasdaq and the S&P each up about 0.5%. The big decliner, shares of the computer server and storage firm Super Micro Computers, down 32%. That's after its auditor, Ernst & Young, resigned, voicing concerns about governance, transparency, and internal controls over finances. And the big gainer, shares of the social networking site Reddit, soaring 40% higher after an earnings beat last quarter on a surge in new users, which pushed up ad sales. Tom Busby, Bloomberg.
With the Bloomberg Small Business Report, I'm John Tucker. Hurricanes Milton and Helene have opened the floodgates for people seeking disaster relief. Along with that comes the danger of fraud. The Federal Trade Commission, Department of Justice, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau are all warning consumers to be wary of identity theft, price gouging, and other fraud. Small business owners should stay alert, too, and recognize that the scammers can strike both online and in person. Because small businesses might have a variety of employees and contractors coming and going after a disaster, owners should be vigilant about verifying the identity of anybody with whom they're working. Jennifer Butler, partner in disaster recovery at global advisory firm EisnerAmper, tells the AP that small businesses should always ask for ID and documentation. No one should be asking for payment up front, particularly anybody that says they're from a government organization like the Small Business Administration. Yeah, that's the Bloomberg Small Business.
Reimagine a world where the Caribbean is seamlessly connected, where our people, our cultures, and our economies move freely across the islands. This is Connect Caribbean, more than a ferry service. It's the heartbeat of a new era, an era where economic opportunities expand, where trade flows freely across our seas, and cultural exchange flourishes. We are linking businesses, empowering communities, and reigniting the hope for a truly integrated Caribbean. Together, we're shaping a brighter, more unified future for the Caribbean. Connect Caribbean, connecting our islands, our people, our future.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, RTV.network.
The voice of Florida. Your voice is our choice with Dr. Karen Green.
Wow, c'est choix nous.
Welcome back to the second segment of The Voice of Florida, where your voice is our choice. Welcome, Dr. Shaw. Good morning. Blessings to you. How are you?
I'm doing masterfully. Thanks for asking.
Dr. Shaw happens to be the secretary of the Florida Democratic Party, a DNC member, and one who is also steering a county in Central Florida in Osceola County, where he's been in leadership for a very long time. I know you're in the classroom stepping aside this morning, Dr. Shaw. How are you?
I'm doing well. Again, thanks for asking. Very energetic and excited. Looking forward to the good news tomorrow. And I'm hoping that it'll become a blue wave.
Dr. Shaw, what is the turnout like in your county?
Well, I'm sorry. The last time I heard it was like 60%.
Wow. Are you seeing an enthusiasm within the Caribbean community for this candidate?
Yes, indeed. The enthusiasm, celebration, and they're all set agog by this whole experience.
Wow.
And especially that they can claim her.
So you know, our people, we have a lot of conservatives within our community, in our
They still claim her. They still claim her. They still claim her.
So you and I can truthfully tell folks that just as it is with folks who are voting from a coalition point, voting as Republicans for our candidate, we could say the same thing about our Caribbean voters who are voting for this candidate patriotically.
Absolutely. My neighbors, I have a few neighbors who are staunch Republicans who will be voting. Some already have voted for Kamala, and there are others who are definitely going to the polls tomorrow to mark the X next to her name.
Dr. Shaw,
they're excited.
Dr. Shaw, I full disclosure, this is one of my closest friends within the political spectrum, and is also of Caribbean descent. Dr. Shaw, I know you're in your classroom, you took a moment to step away from your students, but Can you take this 1 minute to just evangelize, if I may say, appealing to those to get out the votes who haven't yet voted?
Yes. If you have not yet voted, please, this is historic, and we cannot afford to allow a disoriented gentleman. I won't even use the Jamaican terms that I would love to use for him. We can't afford to do that. So we have to exercise our rights, our franchise, to make sure that we continue on the trajectory of democracy. This is not a time to play. This is crucial.
Wow. Dr. Shaw, I couldn't have said it better. I refer to you with your decency and just how your orator, you're brilliant. You know, everybody knows it to be a straight shooter in many ways. But thank you this morning for taking the time to appeal to those who haven't yet voted
Thank you so much. And it's good to be on your show. Please invite me again.
Looking forward to seeing you after the storm, brother. When we can
Yes,
truly drink some coconut water under the coconut tree that they talk about. God bless you.
That's thank you so much.
Victory to you, my brother. Blessed love.
Bye-bye.
Right. We'll continue on this segment. Just wanted to bring some things to your awareness. We're one day in, and it is important, folks, if you have not yet voted and you requested your mail-in ballots, know that you can no longer mail this. You're going to have to, well, not you have to, but I am appealing and asking you to take your ballots to the polling locations tomorrow. The polls are going to open really early, and I can guarantee, based on the projection we've seen so far with early voting, that a lot of us are sentimental and just want to vote on election day. I've checked the weather in Florida. We might still have good weather, but it is important that you get to the polls. Here you see on the screen there, if you have any concerns about voting, here are your voter assistant lines and a voter protection line. It is important, folks, that you take heed. Look, if you see anything that doesn't look right, you're going to be our eyes and our ears, although we'll have many of us out there watching the polls to see that things go well. But as all the guests we've had this morning have expressed to you, this is truly one of those times when we cannot sit on the sideline and leave it to somebody else's vote to count. I'm also suggesting to you as well that if you get to the counter, the polling site, and they're saying they can't find your name, or there's a concern with your signature, whatever the consequences or circumstances are, request a provisional ballot. Let me repeat that. Don't walk away if you know you're a registered voter. If you have not voted before and they've probably purged you, request a provisional ballot. So please don't leave that polling site after standing in line. Stand there and ask that you get a provisional ballot. You'll complete that, get it turned in, and then we will see what it looks like after you voted. You can always check with the polling site to see what your vote was counted. But it is imperative because every vote will count. Another thing I wanted to express to you is that, remember, if you're in the line, even after polling sites close, once you're in that line, you can still vote. We've heard it this morning in the national news, and as you know, we're talking from the state of Florida, but we've also heard from different states that the National Guard was called out in the event they need them. Just think for a moment. We've never had this kind of a crisis prior to Donald Trump's presidency. And my fellow Americans across the globe, and here in the state of Florida and across this great nation, we cannot have that kind of a freedom breach. I am appealing to you as well in the few minutes we have together on this show, that you too, remember where we're coming from. Remember that the fight, the struggles. 50 years ago, women couldn't even vote. Less than 100 years ago, they couldn't even buy houses. A lot of things are on the line, folks. Your freedom. In recent days, we as people from conservative values or faith and or principles have allowed us to choose things that we see as godly or within our moral status or preview. But when you think about people dying, women dying in states that they're no longer able to, doctors can no longer take care of them in fear of their own careers or going to jail. This week, we had a situation where another person died in Texas because she was 5 months in her pregnancy with complications, and the doctors were afraid to save her life. I know so many physicians who right now are scared because of the laws that the ancient crazy laws that women fought for over 50 years ago, that it's not just abortion, folks. You all know my faith. I'm a practicing, faith-loving Christian woman. But we cannot see abortion and the freedom of saving somebody's life and the choice a woman has to make as a reason for you not to vote. Another thing that concerns us in the state of Florida is that we have other issues on the ballots. Keep in mind that, remember, this election cycle is not just for the presidential candidates on our ticket. We also have municipal candidates that are voting. You need to vote for them now. Your local county, your school board, your commissioners, your supervisor of election. It is a critical time, folks. Up and down your ticket. I am saying to you today, vote for the people who want you to vote. Vote for the people who you know would recognize and see your values and want to understand them and support you in doing this. So this morning, as we are here on The Voice of Florida, you know this is where your voice is our choice. My voice has the freedom here on this program today. I'm appealing to you as well that the candidate we have in Kamala Harris, our vice president, we have no other choice. She has done the work from a civil serving woman for almost all of her life. The legacy of her work is still there. She is a winner. She's always won a race until she stepped out of the previous one as president and basically Joe Biden won that election and chose her as his vice president because of her qualifications. Viewers in my listening ear today, we can't go back. We can't. We cannot allow fear and the professed financial, economical growth of our people to reach us from a man who has filed bankruptcy so many times. The relationships in his businesses have none outside of his family. I remember seeing a situation where I was serving at a food bank in the previous election cycle where we opened the boxes and we saw letters with Donald Trump's name on these food boxes as if he was the person giving these food out to people. Do not buy into that rubbish. Don't do it. Donald Trump did not feed you when you were hungry. He did not support you when you were dying of COVID. He suggested we use bleach to purify our blood. And the worst part about that is that the gentleman who he has promised to appoint to our CDC is a man who doesn't even believe in vaccines for infants. Folks, don't take this lightly. I am using this platform this morning to appeal to you. Appeal to you not only from a cancer survivor space, from an immigrant space, but for a person who knows what it is to have pre-existing conditions. And the idea that we're being threatened to reverse, to revoke, and to get rid of the Obamacare, the universal health care for Americans, for our seniors, for our veterans, the man who doesn't even respect them. We have done so much within this last administration. President Joe Biden, as modest as he is and as aging as he is, he has been a loyal, decent, dedicated man. And one of the greatest things he did was choosing our vice president. Today, my fellow Americans who are eligible to vote, I, who have had the blessing of voting for Vice President Harris twice this year, having voted for her as a delegate to be the nominee for the Democratic Party to be the president of these United States, I invite you this morning, fellow Americans, let us not go down in history as having led any kind of anarchy, any kind of dictatorship, any kind of tyranny to be exposed to our generation. He said it. In his first day, he will be a dictator. Folks, if there's anything we've experienced in America, is what the world saw on January 6th. Please, wherever you are, look at your ballots this morning, because so many have already voted. But folks, we have to make sure we secure the Senate or House of Congress. And most importantly, folks, we must select a Democratic president, because if not, Donald Trump is going to stack our Supreme Courts, or court, or highest court, where he has already gained protection. Imagine when there is no other rule or law in this country, if he had the legacy of stacking any more Supreme Court justices to our courts. Our Constitution would be revoked. He said it. It's no longer needed. In his own words, folks, here is a man who within the last 72 hours promised his enemies would be, in his own description, his own words, what he envisioned, face a firing squad. one of his own conservative, one of the most conservative Congresswoman Cheney, who's been there, gave up her own career because of her choice of the Constitution. A successful Republican woman in the House of Congress who could have done anything with her life. She could have probably been a presidential candidate herself. But she chose to stop this era of tyranny after having experienced what it was on January 6th, to see a mob, insurrectionists coming to take over our party, our country. And so this morning, with all hope, aspirations, and penitence for my own child and his children, for my own mother and a generation to come. People died to be able to vote in this country, particularly in the South. The world in America, Civil War was fought because of slavery and segregation. And my dear brothers and sisters, wherever you are, please, please, register. You've already registered to vote. Tomorrow, wherever you can, as long as you're an American citizen and you can vote, please vote. Vote up and down the ticket for Democrats to secure our freedom, to secure our country, and to secure our rights. Until we meet again next week, we will be speaking on the Voice of Florida. Tomorrow on Election Day, we'll be doing live broadcasts from across the state and across this country. Please tune in to our TV where you are here. We will be basically broadcasting live from our locations where people will be voting tomorrow. Let me also share with you folks, don't take this lightly. Please, please, may the Lord bless America. May the Lord continue to secure our future. And may the Lord bless our nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris, that she will be our 47th president to secure our freedoms. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in to the Voice of Florida, where your voice is our choice.
This is the Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini. Some bad news for some homeowners. Property taxes in some metros are surging. Redfin says the median monthly property tax payment has skyrocketed more than 65% in Indianapolis and Atlanta since 2019, and also has surged in some parts of Florida like Tampa, Jacksonville, and Miami because of rising home values, increasing natural disasters, and growing demand for government services like schools. Nationwide, property taxes have increased nearly 30% since 2019 to a monthly median of $250. So where are effective property taxes the cheapest? The average residential property tax rate paid as a percentage of home value is lowest in Anaheim, Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Diego, also some other California cities, thanks in part to Proposition 13. And also low in Nashville, Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Charlotte, but highest in some Texas cities like Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. And that's the Bloomberg Real Estate Report. I'm Denise Pellegrini.
This is the Bloomberg Green Report. Wildfires that break out today spread much faster than those that started 2 decades ago. Researchers analyzed 20 years' worth of NASA satellite data for a first-of-its-kind study. They found the growth rate of the fastest wildfires in the western U.S. increased 249% between 2001 and 2020. Jennifer Balch is an associate professor at the University of Colorado and a fire scientist. She was the lead author of the study, which was published in the journal Science. She says the role of climate change in the explosion of megafires that burn hundreds of thousands of acres annually has been well documented, but its contribution to wildfire speed is less clear. Balch says what is known is that it takes just a little bit of warming to lead to a lot more burning. Strong winds help to fuel destructive wildfires. They not only spread the flames, they carry embers that can ignite new fires miles from the original fire front. Jeff Bellinger, Bloomberg.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel, our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, RTV.network.